Hi VC, Dave back with you again. This is going to be an actual vinyl video, VC, a proper VC. Actually, this is a response video, something I haven't done in a long time. It's a response to Jonas. Jonas, SublimMedia, his 1,000 subscribers thread, and congratulations, Jonas, on reaching that goal. So its thread is to show the rarest items in your collection. It's kind of an interesting challenge. I thought long and hard about what I'd show, and eventually I decided I'll just settle on a handful of records, and the one thing they're all going to have in common is that they were all found in the wild. So there's nothing here that I found that I bought on Discogs or on eBay. Everything was found, in the wild. So again, Jonas is one of the nice guys at the VC, and I thought, it's a great idea for a thread. I really do enjoy these. It's a long time since I've done one, so I thought, why not? I'm going to start off with one of the earliest records I picked up when I started collecting vinyl. That is this reissue of the Residents' debut album, Meet the Residents. Originally came out in 1974. This is a 1988 reissue, which was limited to 500 copies on white vinyl. So the Residents always tend to be very expensive. I bought this at, well, it was technically a kind of a jumbled sale, or it took place, it was in a bar, so it was technically a kind of a flea market, which was dubbed bar boot sale because it was in a bar. So it was kind of, but there's a few people selling vinyl, and I picked that up for something like €10. Online, this would probably, you probably wouldn't get this for less than 50. The residents generally nearly always tend to be quite expensive. Even reissues, as that is. Not too long after I got that, I picked this up. This is by Cabaret Voltaire. It is their final album, which they released in 1994. It's called A Conversation, and came out on a Belgian label called Apollo. Now this is a quadruple album, and I can tell you there weren't too many quadruple vinyl albums coming out in 1994. This being, vinyl was going to decline, and this would have been pressed in fairly small numbers. That, coupled with the fact that it hasn't been I don't think this has ever been reissued, to my knowledge. It was featured, I think, last year in Record Collector magazine. That bit where people write in about their asking for, the value-added facts, I think it's called, where people ask about, how much is this record and how rare is this record I have, and etc. etc. So in the kind of collection, in the kind of condition that this is in absolutely spanking near mint condition. You could probably pay up to about 100. I paid €20 for this when I bought this back in about 2012, and so it really was a bargain. This is something I picked up only quite recently. This was part of a big charity shop sale. I've been quite lucky in charity or thrift shops. I only paid 50 cents for this, but if you were to buy this at the price that it generally goes for, you could probably expect to pay at least €50 or more. This is Steve Reich, Different Trains and Electric Counterpoint, as performed by Pat Metheny and the Kronos Quartet. This came out in 1989 on Elektra Records. Yeah, vinyl edition of this does go for quite a lot, does command quite high prices. I already have this on CD actually as part of a Steve Reich box set, but I'm not selling this though, I'm hanging on to it. Yeah, so Steve Reich. It doesn't go for as much probably as well, actually, yeah. Music for 18 musicians, yeah, that's another pretty pricey one, which you also have, but I'm not showing that as that was a Discogs purchase. Yeah, myself and Ben Costello, the next three items I'm going to show, they were all bought from a seller that myself and Ben bought quite a lot of stuff from. He was a German guy who was selling off his collection, which an absolute treasure of original German krautrock pressings. This was just one of many gems that I bought from him. Now I paid €50. This is Shrah Temple, self-titled debut album, which came out in 1971. Manuel Gottsching and Klaus Schulze also on this. This is an original German pressing on ore. I paid €50 for this, which is probably about the highest I've ever paid for a record in the wild ore label. But 50 is actually, I think the lowest this has ever gone for on Discogs is 60, and you could probably expect to pay well over 100, or maybe even kind of 200, maybe even, for this. Very, very collectible. One of the kind of, you know, sought after grails of krautrock, of German music of that period. Also from the same guy, another very hard to find album in the wild, Kraftwerk's self-titled debut album, an original German pressing from 1970 on Philips. The collectability of this record has been compounded by the fact that it hasn't been reissued since the early 70s, so like your best chance of getting this on vinyl is bootleg. You know, there's a lot of bootlegs floating around, but this is the real deal. This is an original pressing. I got this for something like 10 or 15 euros, ridiculously cheap, but expect to pay like over 40 or 50 or and upwards for this. The same seller had quite a lot of Hawkwind. Now, interestingly enough, he'd spent some time in South Africa in the 70s, and he picked up a lot of South African pressings when he was down there, including this, Hawkwind's self-titled debut album on Liberty from 1970, and this is a South African pressing. I don't know. This hasn't ever sold on Discogs as far as I know, but I would imagine it's not something you'd come across every day. So I have no idea how much it would go for, but I would imagine it would be pretty rare. Hawkwind. Yeah. Scott Walker. this is probably the hardest to find of Scott Walker albums. Scott 4 from 1969, the fourth in his self-titled series. This didn't sell very well when it came out originally on Philips, compounded by the fact that he released it under his real name of Scott Engel, which I think might have confused a lot of his erstwhile kind of fans of, teeny bopper fans when he was in the Walker Brothers. Yeah, I think this album, a lot of people probably didn't know what to make of this, and it didn't sell very well. So I got this for something like €15 at a flea market. Generally, it would go for over 50 and upwards. Yeah, generally it goes for, and it has been reissued, but still, first pressings like this, the UK first pressing, do tend to go for quite a lot of money. Okay. This is something I got as a result of a trade. 4-disc box set. Philip Glass, Einstein on the Beach. This is the only copy I've ever come across in the wild. Yeah, generally tends to be very pricey. Even the CD reissues of this tend to be quite expensive. I got this as a result of a trade, and it was really good trade, because the record I traded it for, I didn't pay that much for, even though it was quite collectible. But yeah, 1978 on, or 1979 on Tomato Records, original US pressing. Very, very hard to find this in the wild. As I said, that is the only copy I've ever seen in the wild. Now, I've been very lucky when it comes to charity shop finds. The next item, it was a result of a window sale in a local charity shop. They tend to have these monthly window sales where they have the items sitting in the window. On the given day, then you queue up, and now that this particular window sale, I had my eye on one item in particular in the window. It was I think it was a second pressing of Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Pink Floyd. I actually ended up, somebody else grabbed it, unfortunately. I missed out big time on that, but I did manage to grab this. Trout Mask Replica by Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band is a UK first pressing on Straight Records from 1969. As you can see, the sleeve is not in great condition. But still, I paid €6 for this, which is, this generally goes for over €50 at least, 40, 50 and upwards. Although I suppose the state of the sleeve in this case would probably go against it, but still a very hard record to find in the wild. I don't know how well this sold, but it was pretty far out even for 1969. So yeah, first pressing's pretty difficult enough to find in the wild. The next one is kind of an obscurity. This was a completely this was a totally random charity shop find, totally unexpected. This is a post-punk 12-inch by a band called Sudeten Crash. It's called Kindergarten. Sudeten Crash, active in the early 80s, only put out a couple of singles. This came out on a label called Illuminated, which was generally kind of post-punk industrial. It came out in 1983. This is kind of an example of what has been, in retrospect, termed cold wave or dark wave. It's kind of that kind of dark synth, kind of minimal synth, kind of post-punk thing. It's pretty rare. This is pretty collectible. For 12-inch, yeah, it generally goes for around 25-30 euros upwards. So I was very lucky to grab this for I think €2 or something like that. It cost me. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. So again, congratulations on the 1,000 subs. So I hope everybody enjoys the thread. Watched James Buttery's response yesterday. So yeah, so that's it, and everybody enjoy what's left of the weekend, and talk to you next time.